Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina-r-Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here. And today I'm going to be doing a solo podcast. I have been thinking for a while about doing a podcast and sharing a little bit about what's been going on in my life. And I've had a couple of my friends step forward and encourage me to take a break from a guest and just share a little bit from my heart to yours. And so I decided to leave room for one episode by myself this month to share what has been going on, honoring my friends and listeners who said, hey, let's hear from you for a minute. And so as I've been thinking about this for a while, because it's been on the calendar, I've really been thinking about what I have learned through this quarantine, what I have experienced. I don't want to talk about the controversial bits. I don't want to talk about the political bits. I just really want to talk about the personal parts, the things that hopefully you will understand and relate to. Now, for me, it has really been a journey of faith over fear. And so undercurrent of my conversation is really the topic of grounding myself in truth and my faith. But I would like to share a few points because that helps me stay on track so I don't go ramble on you guys because I don't have a guest to keep me on track. So the first thing that I was thinking about when it came to this quarantine, the first thing I learned was I actually didn't mind everything kind of coming to a halt on the whole. I found that it felt good to have a moment to stop and think. Like I couldn't be too busy to think. I couldn't be too busy to pause and reflect. So I found that the slower pace was actually kind of nice in my family, at least. I found that the pause gave me an opportunity to really look at what I was doing, how I was doing it. Was it going to suit long term? And maybe what I would like to do differently. And so I found that the pause was super helpful in a lot of ways. And I do know that for some people, it really did allow them the ability to analyze what was going on in their lives and what's important and maybe what's not so important. I don't know about you, but it gets so busy, and there's so many things that we do, and it's so easy to think, oh, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. And it's like the tyranny of the urgent, the emergency that's in front of you, the fire that's in front of you. And I think sometimes we do have to respond in the moment, but I think maybe the reactionary piece was becoming too dominant, and I needed to find more of a response. So as everything slowed down, it was like, okay, so what do I really need to do? What is really important? And so I don't know about you, but I found that the pause was a little bit of a gift in that way. But one of the other things that I learned was that how shall I put this? This worldwide pandemic, this quarantine, I live in California, and what I've found is that people are triggered everywhere. And it made me think about my own triggers. It made me think about those things that maybe cause me to a switch to flip. And maybe I'm not as patient, or maybe I'm feeling a certain sort of way in certain situations. And I feel like when this started to happen, and there were so many unknowns really at the very beginning, people did the run on toilet paper, and you couldn't find toilet paper anywhere, and you couldn't find rice, at least in my area, like rice, beans, and toilet paper, ridiculous. Couldn't find them anywhere. Flour, and I found that it was really a test of my temperament to be in a world where we're on lockdown for a while, and it became, for my social personality, my extroverted personality, difficult to go out into a world where people seem to be afraid to be near other people. You couldn't touch people, you couldn't see people. And so I think that there was a certain measure of grace that has had to come into play, and really understanding where I'm struggling as a human being, maybe areas where I get triggered, and then looking around me and seeing all the triggers and making sure that I don't trigger to the triggers. So I think one of the things that I've learned is, we're all going through this from what we feel and what we understand. And that can cause a lot of friction, and that can cause a lot of difficulty for people. And so there was a certain amount of preparing myself that has needed to take place. Even now, still, it's gotten a bit better. But you know what? It's a scary thing to have the whole world come to a halt. And so the triggers and everybody's way of dealing with stress, which brings me to the next point, is, you know what, guys? I don't know where you're at in your journey. And I know that if you're like me and you're in midlife, there's already so many things on our plate. It could be parents, it could be our adult children, it could be job change, it could be marriage stress. I know a lot of marriages have struggled during the pandemic. And stress is something that we all deal with, but this created such an interesting, unique stress. Like, what I've learned is that the stress that we've experienced during this situation has been a very low grade, nonstop kind of stress. And it has required some agility to navigate how we're managing how we feel, which brings me to the fear. The fear, the unknown, the uncertainty caused and has caused, and I think is still causing, a lot of stress. So what I've learned is I have to be my own keeper. I need to pay attention to when I'm feeling stressed, how I'm feeling stressed, and how that stress is spilling over onto the people that I'm spending time with. And so stress management has been a big part of my journey, because I really didn't feel stress in an overt sort of way. It was more of a covert thing, because my husband was still working, and he does a lot of work in hospitals. So he was a lot of the time in, around, or near the floors with COVID, where people were like head to toe, look like spacesuits, and he was just wearing a mask. And so that caused him stress. So how do we navigate that and prepare him to have protection? Certain essential oils are antiviral, and the washing of the hands, and the all the different things to help him stay strong, and making sure that we were doing certain things at home to boost health. And my daughters were furloughed for most of the quarantine, and so that was stressful for them, because they didn't have money coming in. And so it has been an interesting journey, and I think we can all relate. So this isn't meant to be like, oh my gosh, it's been so hard on me. But what I've learned is that, there's always stress in our lives. This kind of stress is a little bit different, but I've had to really recognize that we are all going through stress. So how do we navigate the stress together and hold a space for each other, so that we have a chance to kind of express what that stress looks like and feels like to us? And I think that's true in life in general. I think I've known about stress, but I've never been in such a very specific situation where the whole world was stressed about the same thing, and it trickled down to our home, which I want my home to be a place of safety and peace, where my family can come and feel like they can just be themselves, right? They can say what they need to say, feel what they need to feel, and it's okay. Even if it's hard things, it's okay. And what I've learned is how can we each help each other and hold a space for each other when we all felt stress on such different levels, because our personalities are different, our situations, even though we're family, are different, and how we feel about what's happening in the world are different. And I'd love to hear how your families have navigated. My husband, like I said, was going to work every day, but he was going out into a world where there was a lot of talk that was kind of fear-based. And so it was scary for him to be around people who were affected with COVID. Like, he was in that environment 3 to 4 days a week right off the bat, because it happens to be one of their clients is this major hospital. And so there were decisions he had to make, right? And so I feel like each one of us have had to acknowledge the stress, recognize how it shows up in us, and then figure out how to navigate my stress with my husband's stress, with my daughter's stress, and try not to do the mom thing and take care of everybody else and not myself, right? Because it's so easy to do. And so I had to really find a way to express myself. And so what I've done is I picked up palette knives and acrylic paint and canvas boards, and I just began to paint. I found that I've always wanted to paint. And for those of you who don't know, I have been a makeup artist for over 30 years. I've done just about everything that you can do in makeup and a little bit of everything. And it really is a very creative, artistic thing, because I've done some body painting and I've keyed some fashion shows and I've done some different things like that. And it's really enjoyable. But I've never picked up a paintbrush, even though that was my greatest desire. Once the quarantine really got rolling and we were getting on lockdown and my daughter was really far away and there were things happening between where she was and where we were, and I was trying to help her navigate a really long drive home away from the unsafe situations while she was in a car. I just found myself feeling very stressed. So I picked up the palette knives and I got some acrylic paints and I just began to paint. Now, I don't know about you, but having an outlet like that has been incredibly helpful for me to manage what I was feeling. Being able to move the paint on the canvas and deal with the texture, create it, feel how it feels, look at the colors, feel the colors. If you are a person who color is an impactful experience for you, like it is for me, I find that, you know how they talk about if you do like yellow walls, it's happy. If you do blue walls, it's calm. If you do red, it's intense, and that sort of a thing. Well, color does have emotion like that. And so I could use my emotions in color, and I could work with colors that weren't necessarily expressing my emotion, but affecting me positively to help me feel like I was releasing. And so I found that art as therapy has been the greatest tool for me throughout this time. And so for stress management, some yoga, some really taking time to relax, breathe deeply, read some good books, paint. I would love to know what it is that you guys have started doing that maybe you haven't done before this. What was that kind of cool thing that came from this just different situation that we find ourselves in the world? So painting has really become the thing that I love. I love it. I'm enjoying it so much. And I have found that was an action of choosing what to do with my feelings. And so one of the other things that I didn't learn it, I was reminded that I need to take every thought captive. I cannot let my thoughts tell me what to think. Do you know what I mean? Like, I needed to make sure that the thoughts I was thinking were helpful, healthy, positive. Now, I didn't deny how I felt. I acknowledged it, but I treated it in a way that was not like a destiny, like this is how it is. This is how I feel. And yes, there are a lot of things that are uncertain. And yes, there are a lot of things I cannot control, which can cause and did cause me some level of fear in a couple of situations. But I can choose how I think about those things. And what I think about things helps with how I feel about things. So I really had to go back to some of the principles that I needed to use early on in my life, which true story, when I hit 18, for lots of circumstances in my growing up years and things had led to a lot of suppression of my emotions. And so I struggled with anger, and I didn't start dealing with my anger until I was like 24. I had gotten married at 23. 10 months and 5 days later, I had my first baby. I was on the fast track, and I didn't know how to cope with my emotions. And so I started the journey of dealing with my anger and really understanding what was anger and how could I not be angry all the time. And so one of the things that I learned through that journey is how my expectations were triggering my anger. Like anger is a secondary emotion, right? And I feel like sometimes fear is a secondary emotion. What was it that triggered the fear? So like, what was it that triggered the anger? I needed to go back to that toolbox and say, okay, what was it that triggered my fear? And I needed to face that thing, and feeling it was one thing, but yielding to it and letting it like build a condo in my mind was not helpful. So I think one of the most important things was to get back to my mindset, my thoughts, like what did I spend time focusing on? The challenge is, and maybe this is the same for you, we are locked up in our houses. We're not going anywhere. We had trips canceled, just like everyone else. There were some amazing things we were going to do this year, and they're not happening. And so it was really easy to feel disappointed, angry, just kind of like life sucks or whatever. But I really want to encourage you, if this is not something that you've given much thought to, is really taking our thoughts captive, really thinking about like, is this serving me? Like, is this getting me the results that I want in my attitude, in my relationships, in my energy? Because when we choose to focus on the negative, it drains our energy, makes us grumpy, impatient, maybe a little bit rude, it depends on your personality. So really thinking about our thoughts, taking into account what words are coming out of my mouth, what things am I saying to myself. And if I were to be completely honest with you guys, and I think I can be, is there have been some darker moments in my thoughts. I really have not been all rainbows and unicorns, positive thinking and always on top of my game. And so the practice of reminding myself that I need to catch those thoughts, I need to question my thoughts, I need to really consider, is this going to get me the results I want from my life and my relationships and my health? And so I began to kind of wrestle with myself. And there have been some times where the fear started to get to me a little bit, or just my husband's anxiety weighed on me a little bit, and I had to really catch it and figure out how to be a helpmate to him and how to help him navigate it while dealing with my own emotions, because that's what we do as a married couple, right? We do the battle together. And so finding a way to hold a space for him and feel my own feelings was kind of a new level of growth and a new level of challenge. So what I learned was that I had to really focus on what I could control, if you will. Control might be the right word. What could I impact. It was what I was thinking, what I was focusing on, and navigating my own emotions. That's something that I could impact. And when I was capturing my thoughts, taking care of what I thought, and really navigating my emotions in a good way, then I was able to be present for my daughters and my husband and invite them to talk about the things that were making them anxious or nervous or frustrated or angry or whatever the emotion was. So really, it is about what you focus on grows. And I knew that, but this situation really challenged me to put my money where my mouth was and really do what I say I believe, which is capture my thoughts, question my thoughts, and make better choices with my thoughts and my words. And I have not always been successful. So I want to definitely share the real part of it, which is in my quiet moments, there's been so many of them because you can't go anywhere, that's the greatest challenge, really. You and I around the world had so much time on our hands in some ways. Some of us have really had time, and time for a season can be good, but when you can't escape it, it can begin to feel a bit frustrating. So I just wanted to encourage you, in case it's something that you struggled with like I did, really thinking about your thoughts and choosing what you think, because not every thought you think is true. And there are thoughts that pop into our head all day long, but that doesn't make them the boss of you. You know what I mean? Like, our thoughts they're only the boss of us if we let them be the boss of us. So I tried to be the boss of my thoughts, and I'm still working on that, of course. So I hope that's an encouragement to you to really recognize that who's the boss of you? Let's be the boss of our thoughts and not let our thoughts be the boss of us. And you know what? Everything circles back. This too shall end. Everyone's going to deal with it the way they're going to deal with it. And things come back around. You have an opportunity to get it right the next time. You have an opportunity to experience it differently the next time, whether it's a relationship challenge or just going to the grocery store and dealing with the different personalities in that environment. Everything circles back. So I need to be the best version of myself, because I have to live with me. You know what I mean? In this world. And something that I really wanted to focus on that has really helped me in my faith versus fear is, I've often said that nothing is wasted in God's economy. There is purpose in every journey that we experience, whether it is pain, loss, joy, success, challenge. There's always light in the darkness. You may have to search hard for it, but there's always a sliver of light. And so even if the darkness feels overwhelming, I want to encourage you to look for the light. Look for the blessing. Look for the lesson in what you're going through. That's something that I've really had to focus on. Is like, okay, this is not how I want things to be. Things are not where I thought they'd be. I'm not where I thought I would be. The change in the world has even impacted podcasting. There are people who had books that they were going to launch that they haven't been able to launch, and movies and trips and family celebrations and all of these things. We don't have to despair. Yes, it's a loss. I am not going to deny that these things are losses. And some of them have been so difficult for some of you. And I'm so sorry that things have been difficult for some of you in a way that I can't understand because I haven't experienced it. But I hope that you can find that light, that gift, that beauty in the ashes, that thing that's just like, I know in my life, there have been some situations that have been so hard and so painful. And I just didn't know how I was going to get through. But now I can look back and see that the person that I am today, the conversations I can have with different people, have all been the fruit of that struggle and that pain. It has given me an empathy. It has given me an understanding. It has given me a breadth and a depth that I wouldn't be able to have if I had not gone through those difficult things. My daughter was just saying the other day, Mom, you could not have protected us from all of these things. And it's good that you couldn't, because what kind of adult would I be if I didn't have some struggle growing up? And it was such a profound and good reminder, because sometimes we beat ourselves up when things get difficult and we couldn't, quote, do anything about it. And I think coming to grips with the fact that this is life. Life gets hard. Life can be so challenging, but we're such resilient people. We have the capacity to learn and grow and see the beauty in the ashes and encourage each other to see the beauty in the ashes. That's where that community is so very important. One of the things that's really been on my mind is, as we go through these challenges, it's so easy to kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just like, I'm going to tough this out, because that's totally the way I do things. So I get the bootstrap theology. I get it. It's all about, I can do this. I will do this no matter what it takes. While there's nothing wrong with that, sometimes it's important when we're struggling and hurting and suffering to allow other people to step in and walk alongside us on that journey. Because, like I said, sometimes our thoughts are not our friends. And sometimes we are in a place where it's difficult for us to see. And so having someone to shine the light, that's what we're talking about right now, is finding the light. Sometimes we need another person to be the light. That's what we need. We need someone to bring this little light of mine into our life and remind us that we are loved and cherished. And yes, this may suck, but we are not alone. And so hopefully, as you're listening to this, that you recognize, no matter where you are in the world, I sometimes look at the list of the countries that listen to this podcast and I'm just blown away, because I'm just a woman sitting in Southern California, sharing messages that I think are important to put out into the world, and conversations that I think maybe someone else might want to hear. And there you are, you're listening. And I hope that it is a light in your life, that it is a bright spot, and that something you hear will give you that encouragement that you need, that lift that you need to help you get through whatever it is you're going through. And know that you're not alone. Everyone is struggling in some way, shape, or form. Everyone has lost something. Everyone is learning a new way of dealing with life. We were talking today, my daughter and I, about emotional agility, and the amount of emotional agility and really mental agility that it's taking to navigate this brand new worldwide challenge has been phenomenally huge. And so we need to extend a little grace to ourselves, find the light, see where we're growing, give ourselves credit, and celebrate each of those little, like, yes, I didn't lose it. Yes, I was nice and when I didn't want to be, or, just find the beauty in each day, find that light. And that's another thing, is looking around and really being present with the things that you love and the people that you love. Now, we are in triple digits in Southern California right now, so it is downright miserable. And I love to burn candles. Like, candles are my jam. We went on, during quarantine, my daughters and I went on candle making binge. We have so many homemade candles. So much fun. By the way, if you've never made candles, super easy. I'm an essential oil queen, but we didn't use essential oils because of the way they burn off. You lose this. We bought like we used coconut wax and we bought the oils that fragrance them. And each one of us, my husband and both my girls and I, we each created scents and we named them and we had such a good time. But in this heat, I just don't like to burn a candle because I don't even like to turn the lights on. Like I'm legitimately trying to pretend it is not 106 degrees, right? So when we slow down and say, you know what? It was so nice to sit in front of the fan. My daughter and I went up the mountain today, which it was like 20 something degrees cooler up there. Yeah, it was almost 20 degrees cooler. And we just enjoyed sitting up there, listening to the birds and talking and then reading and spending some time together. And so it's like, find those things right now when you feel overwhelmed. Find a way to be grateful and see the beauty around you, because those are the things that remind us of what makes living worth it, right? The smile from someone you love, the sound of their voice. It could be flowers. It could be having a pool to dip into. It could be having a fan to sit in front of. It could be ice cream. I am so grateful for ice cream. Some friends of mine and I, when we do Marco Polos, we end our Marco Polos with gratitude, because gratitude has been such a powerful tool in the midst of what would be easily overwhelmingly negative in a lot of ways. For me, I don't do a lot of media because that does not inspire gratitude, nor does it inspire joy. I know what's going on in the world, but I keep my distance so that I can be present in the moment and see the beauty in the life that I have. So, one of the things that I was reminded about in quarantine was to really, really think about the things that do bring me joy and the people that bring me joy and the things that I love. The sound of birds. Like this year, I don't know about you guys, but we've had a ton of butterflies, like giant butterflies, and they've been in our backyard and they've been landing on our bushes, and we've got a squirrel that loves to eat our choke cherries, and then we have our hummingbirds in the evening, and the birds sing in the morning and they sing at night, and it's just such a joy to be able to be present for those things. So I hope that if you're still in that place where you're kind of locked down and you don't have anywhere to go, like I would normally in the summertime go to a coffee shop with my computer and do my work in a very cold place where I need a sweater. And that's been my routine for years. And I can't do that this year. And so I'm really trying to figure out, man, I can't go anywhere. Like I'm going through something called the Artist Way, and I'm supposed to take myself on an artist date every week. I'm like running out of places to go because there's nowhere to go. Like I've been to the mountains, I've been to the beach, I've been to the park, and now it's 102 tomorrow or something. And I'm not going to go sit outside. So it's like, but where's the joy in that? You know what? I'm grateful that I can go up the mountain. I'm grateful that I'm close enough to the ocean. I can go somewhere and wander around and just look for things that are inspirational. So just finding the joys, I guess, is what I'm trying to say in that. Instead of looking at what I can't do, just really finding joy in what I can do. When I've thought about this quarantine and what it has impacted and how it has impacted things, I think one of the other things that has been so impactful about this time of quarantine is really recognizing that it makes the world really small. It makes me remember that we are all in this thing together. And when we fight, when we don't come together, it hurts everyone. And I feel like we need each other to be our best versions of ourselves. And I know that everyone is at a different level of emotional intelligence in their journey. Some people are very, very wounded and they have not taken the opportunity yet to grow, or their life choices have led them into more pain and difficulty. And those of us who know what our best selves are, I feel like that's where we each need to show up, is as our best self in understanding other people are hurting too, and understanding that we are not alone. So if I were to kind of sum up the things that I've shared so far, it would be that I get to choose my thoughts and therefore my focus. You know, there's triggers everywhere. Everyone is struggling on some level, and their ability to deal with it, it's varying, right? Because of where each one of us is at on our journey. And so there's so much more grace required to live in the world right now. And that is one of the greatest things. So it's kind of like those of us who can take the higher road, who can see the higher road. It's important for us to take it and understand that we really are all going through this together. And sometimes we need to be the stronger one. And when we're weaker, we need to reach out to our community, And a lot of what we do is not as important as we think it is. It's been a great time to reprioritize life and relationships. The encouragement that there is always a light somewhere. I really want to encourage you that no matter how dark it gets, always look for the light. No matter how challenged you are, find some light. If it's in another person who can come alongside you and encourage you and show you the things that you are forgetting in the moment, that's amazing. And how do we continue to hold a space not only for ourselves, but for those around us? I think it's easy to just want things to go away, right? We just want to get back to comfortable. We just want to get back to easy, or we just want to get back to normal. Normal has changed forever. So how can we make this new normal the better version of normal? What wasn't working before? And how can we make those adjustments so that we are accomplishing something more productively, more harmoniously, more in line with who we want to be in the life that we want to live? I've talked to a couple people recently about, retirement and aging and, the hard things in life when they come and you're looking back. You're looking back at your life. What kind of person did you want to be? What kind of legacy did you want to leave? What kind of impact did you want to have? When we're going through something like this incredible worldwide impact of something that has affected every nation, every country, every people group, how can we do better, guys? How can we show it better? And when we think that, what difference does it make what I do? It makes a difference, because when you drop a pebble into water, you get ripples. And when I make a good decision, that's like dropping a pebble. Even when I make a bad decision, it's dropping that pebble. So are we going to drop good pebbles? Because the ripples, they do go out from our words and our actions, even our thoughts, because our thoughts direct the way we behave. So I want to encourage each one of us in this time when it feels so restrictive and it feels so frustrating, and a lot of people are unhappy, and there's a lot more aggression, and people are wanting to fight. We remember that this is because we are not perfect. And some people have not done the work to deal with their own triggers. And they're just triggered hard right now. And it's not great. But we get to choose how we engage or don't engage with different people in different situations. We really can only control or impact our own thoughts and words and actions. And sometimes, we haven't even got a handle on that. So I feel like we need to remember that the change starts with me, and I can either be a part of the problem or a part of the solution. And depending on where you're at in the world, that might be a different conversation, what the problem is and what the solution is. But I can choose to be a leader to those in my life in the way that I behave, in the way that I speak, and the way that I think. Here's some fun ideas. I feel like I'm lecturing you, and please forgive me if that's how it comes across. These are just deep thoughts by Gina. This is what happens when you leave me alone for so long. I go deep in the deep end and I snorkel around over there for a really long time. And so I've been like the land of deep thoughts for months now. And I've thought a lot about just really trying to figure out how I can encourage you, my tribe. If you're new to listening to me, I hope that you've been encouraged. If you've listened to me all along, thank you so much, because you're an encouragement to me as you listen each week. And so some of the things that I've started to do is I got some postcards from the art store, and I've been painting pictures, like just little mini paintings, and sending postcards to different women in my life, really good friends, or they've been an encouragement to me. And I just thought, what's one way that I can shine light? Remember, I talked about looking for the light. Well, how can I be a light? I can send a card, or I can send a postcard, which is cheaper than sending a card, by the way. It's like 35 cents here in America. So I can send a postcard. I can draw a little something, paint a little something, send something to someone that's a bit of a surprise. They don't know I'm sending it, and tell them how much I appreciate them. That's one way we can shine the light. Zoom chats with friends. I've got one that I do periodically with a couple of different friends, and it's always so nice to see their face because we can't be together physically, and it feels like we're together, and I get to see their smile, and I get to see them, their expression, and it's so wonderful to use technology to stay connected during these times. It can be carving out time to watch just a silly, like, Hallmark movie. Like, I love a good, predictable romance, rom-com, like I love, it doesn't have to be a rom-com, but I just love predictable, cheesy, romantic movies. They feel good. Everything always works out okay. And yeah, you know exactly how the story is going to go, but that's what I like about it. It's predictable. It's happy. And I don't know about you guys, but this is another true confession. For those of you who don't know me, I only watch movies that I like the ending to, that they're happy. I don't like it when the people I like die. I don't like it when things don't work out the way I want them to. So pretty much I have a very narrow movie parameter, and my family, my daughters pretty much go, "Mom, you would hate this movie." And I listen to them because when I was newlywed, I would watch all of those, like, because when I got married, it was all about like Terminator and all those kinds of movies that were super intense, and they just sent me over the moon with stress. At some point I was like, I am done with this. I am only watching happy movies. So I pretty much watch a lot of Jane Austen films and things like that. So, in times of stress, give yourself that time. Maybe don't do it 24 hours a day with bonbons, but hey, if you need to do it for 24 hours with bonbons and then go back to normal, maybe that's a solution for you. But, taking time out to do something you enjoy and not feeling guilty about it is a great way too of managing and having that agility that we need during this crazy season. And, paint, draw, read, sing, dance, learn an instrument, cook. I know I did the sourdough starter thing early on with everyone else, but I couldn't find flour. So I had to abort mission. I couldn't find flour, and so I had to stop. But I did a lot of cool things with the starter that was in my refrigerator. I made crackers and all kinds of fun stuff. So, there's always something to enjoy, my friends. And I do want to express my gratitude for each one of you. And just even if this is the only episode you ever listen to, I hope there was something here for you. I trust that when I share, that someone somewhere needs to hear something I'm saying, not because I'm so profound and deep, even though I feel a lot of pressure to be that. I realize I can't always be that, but I could be honest and I can be authentic, and I can tell you that I care deeply, that you feel heard, that you have someone that you feel like they understand what you feel, and that you're encouraged, and that you don't feel alone in this difficult time. And If my podcast can be a part of your journey of finding light in the world and becoming more emotionally agile, then I'm happy to be a part of that journey with you. It's so important for us to connect with each other and to share this. So I always encourage you, to grab a cup of something wonderful with someone and listen to a podcast. Turn it into a listening party and share what you thought, and then send me a message, a comment. Let me know how these things impact you. A lot of my guests have great messages, and there's so many big hearts, these people that I talk to, and they love the people that they serve. And so you are on their hearts and minds when they talk. You're on my heart and mind when I share, and you matter, and you're important. No matter where you are in the world, no matter what you've gone through, this quarantine will pass. The struggle in your life will pass. If you're hearing my voice right now, it's because you have been overcoming. It's because you have continued to be strong, and you have continued to show up for your life. And that is such a gift. So if I could just kind of go off on a little tangent and say, you're so important, and your growth is important, and your voice is important. We need you in this world. Even if you never do something like speak on the stage, be on TV, whatever we consider to be high visibility opportunities, how you show up in your family and in your community, that's the important part, because those are the people that know you. Those are the people that see your life. And as we go through this quarantine together and we navigate the new normal, we can do better, and we can have an impact. That dropping that pebble in the water of the life and letting our ripples be good ripples, impactful, positive ripples. Yes, life can suck. Yes, these things are difficult, but that does not mean that we cannot be grateful, gracious, authentic, kind people who make a difference in the world. It's so easy to feel like, who am I and what difference can I make? Trust me, one person can make so much of a difference. We cannot even fathom the ripple effect of the decisions that we make, and the better our decisions, how much more beautiful are those ripples, my friends. Now, thank you for being with me today. And if you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 186, you will find this episode. And I would encourage you to follow me on Instagram at Feminine Roadmap. I'm finally getting it together and getting that Instagram together after 2.5 years. I have a YouTube channel, Feminine Roadmap. Look me up. There's some great stories and videos over there, people with great resources. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. If there's an episode that you love, please reach out to me. Let me know how these impact you. If you have questions for me, please email me at ourtribe@feminineroadmap.com. That's ourtribe@feminineroadmap.com, and I will answer you personally. Thank you so much for being with me today. Thank you for listening to me just share the thoughts off the top of my head of things that I've been pondering in the deep end over here. And I hope that it's been an encouragement for you. Thank you so much, my friends, for joining me today. Take care. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.